Welcome back to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network, and you can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support podcasts such as this one, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording this episode on Tuesday, November 22nd, and joining me, as always, is Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O.
You ready for the shopping mayhem?
Today is not Black Friday, but we are going to release this episode on Black Friday, so we're going to talk about inflation and holiday shopping. It's going to cost you more to buy what you bought last year. You might not be able to find on the shelves or online what you wanted to buy last year or this year.
Starting from turkey, right? On Thanksgiving, right? The price of turkey is up 17% year over year.
I know. So what do you make of what's happening in the economy? What are the numbers against this that we're looking at? Help us to make sense of just, what is happening with regard to pricing as we're up against one of the most frantic holiday spending weekends of the year.
The price of everything is very, very high. Okay. But there's good news. The pace of consumer price increases has gone down. So we saw the latest consumer price index report where inflation was at 7.7%. So prices increased 7.7% when compared to a year ago. And so the pace of the increase has gone down for 4 consecutive months. That's the good news. The bad news is everything is very, very expensive. And prices compared to last year are well above where people, a place where people are comfortable, right? So like I mentioned, turkey up 17% year over year, but like a whole chicken is up 15% year over year, and the price of eggs, we eat a lot of eggs in my household. The price of eggs up 44%. Forget about getting those organic eggs, right? Because, oh my, right? If you're spending $7 for 12 eggs, this stuff is costly. It adds up, and it's definitely hurting families. We're going to start with Thanksgiving. It's going to squeeze families a little bit, because the traditional Thanksgiving meal is going to be more expensive. And then you go into Black Friday, and you'll notice that, everything's more expensive. And that's if you can find the stuff that you're looking for.
There's a report out from Michigan State University that I read earlier this morning. I believe it was just released today. I mean, of course, we're taping this on the 22nd. In this report is a chart that's titled Inflation Anxiety. And when asked how worried they are about inflation, 54% of respondents said extremely or very much, while another 25% said they were modestly concerned. But the people who are only slightly concerned or not at all concerned make up less than a quarter of the respondents. They also said, these respondents said that they plan to spend on average around $700 this holiday season, substantially less than the roughly $880 that consumers have spent in each of the past 3 holiday seasons. So that's a pretty significant drop off.
It means a lot less stuff, right? Because prices are so high, right? So much higher than they were last year. In order to spend less, you have to buy a lot less stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have to make some tough choices. And I assume I'm going to see consumers doing this holiday season in terms of Christmas gifts and all that stuff is really shifting from the expensive stuff to the stuff that's less expensive, right? So like you look at women's outerwear down 1.4%. Mm-hmm. Compared to last year. Women's suits, right? Nobody's going back to the office as much, right? Women's suits only up 0.4% compared to women's dresses up 0.4% compared to last year. So, you're going to see consumers kind of change their habits a little bit, substitute away from the expensive stuff towards the slightly cheaper things that haven't seen huge price increases over the last year. Men's apparel, men's and boys apparel, for example, good example of something that a category that hasn't seen a massive increase, at 2.7% year over year. So that's really what I expect to see consumers doing, looking for bargains, right? We may actually have a very, very strong Black Friday just because people are going to go out there looking for bargains. This year more than any other year.
Well, from that Michigan State report, and from an attitudinal standpoint or approach standpoint, 52% of respondents said they would spend more time trying to find the best deals. 42.6% said they would buy smaller or less expensive gifts.
There you go.
42% of that polling group said that they would start shopping earlier so that they can spread out the spending. And about 38% said that they would have a strict budget for holiday shopping.
It all makes sense, right? It all makes sense. It's what we've been seeing in the headlines, for consumer household debt balances increasing due to inflation. It's exactly, it all makes sense. The consumers are basically telling us they're squeezed. Households are really squeezed. Their budgets are squeezed, and their savings are going down rapidly, and they're having to tap into credit card debt. That is kind of true across the board at this point.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts on that. I don't think that we're necessarily breaking news here. I think it's going to be a glum holiday season for retailers for all the reasons that we've been talking about for months.
But you never know, right? Like we said, because of the current environment, look for those areas that are really, really cheap. Those value that offer value. These, right. These really bargain stores ought to do really well in a time like this.
For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.